Hey, everybody. It's Jason. I know you've heard my voice many times in the podcast, and I'm here to tell you about something very interesting coming up. I want to let you know about an incredible opportunity for you to get free tips and strategies to build and monetize your personal brand. My good friend Rory Vaden is a New York Times bestselling author and Hall of Fame speaker, and he and his wife founded a company called Brand Builders Group. And they have put together a huge online summit where they're interviewing some of the most influential personal brands in the world on their never before shared secrets of how they became who they are today. So who's speaking at the summit? We've got Lewis Howes, got Michael Hyatt, Dennis Rodman, Kevin Harrington, Jay Baer, Donald Miller, and more. This is a rare opportunity for you to hear the stories about how they became New York Times bestselling authors, how they built high-paid keynote speaking careers, how they have grown massive online followings, and exactly what they have done to create large, multi-seven-figure businesses. If you're someone who is looking to create any type of influence, you have to check this out. It's totally free, and you're going to be learning from the masters who've actually done this. So I want you to encourage you to head over to the show notes today. And in the show notes, I'm going to put a link to this summit. Again, completely free. Take a look at it. I feel super confident you will find it valuable. And now, enjoy the episode. My guest on the show today is Donna Loughlin, who's made a career working with visionaries that are changing the world we live and work. As the founder and president of LMGPR, a PR firm focused on emerging technology, she has successfully launched 500 companies and secured millions of editorial placements, top off more than a dozen awards. Her market expertise is vast, including artificial intelligence, robotics, ag tech, mobility, transportation, and pretty much anything you can put in your pocket, car, or home. Prior to establishing LMGPR, she held leadership positions with Silicon Valley tech companies, and prior to that, she earned her journalism chops with Reuters and the Washington Post. Donna holds a master's in communications from UC Berkeley and marketing and advertising degrees from San Jose State University and UC Berkeley, respectively. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. So nice to be on the show, Jason.
Thank you so much. So good to meet you. Donna and I are everybody listening. Donna and I are meeting for the first time right now. So we're about to have a conversation without knowing anything about each other than she's listened to my podcast and I have read her bio. So it'll be a fun conversation.
We're bi-coastal bookends.
We're bi-coastal bookends. I'm here in the East Coast and Donna's we're going to cover is on the West Coast. So shall we get right into it?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. So Donna, what's something you nerd out about?
Oh gosh, I am known as the geek chic.
Geek chic.
Or the chic geek. Wait, you could reverse that. I love technology and innovation. Always have. Ever since I was a kid, I was always trailing behind my father, tinkering in the garage, following him to everything from the hardware store to tinkering underneath the car and reading all his popular science and popular mechanic books. And ultimately, I probably should have gotten a very hardcore STEM degree, but it wasn't that encouraged. And we'll talk about that. And so I've made a career out of talking to the brightest light bulbs and the innovators and the futurists that are creating and thinking making the impossible possible and taking their dreams and distilling it into a story so that people like you and I can acquire, use in their products.
Go spend our hard-earned cash.
Exactly.
As a self-proclaimed early adopter, that really resonates for me. So I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And then next thing you know, I've got a new toy, maybe not a toy thing that I've purchased. So
I'm the opposite. I'm a late adopter. I wait till the price drops.
I think you might be the smart one in that, but I'm like the person who will overpay to have the thing first, which is what I believe an early adopter means. So so you said you're a tinkerer.
I like to tinker. Yeah.
Anything you're tinkering with at the moment? I don't mean at the moment, but
yeah,
any fun projects?
I'm learning how to repair Cessna 152 and 172 airplanes.
Just an airplane, just a small thing like an airplane.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Because flying a plane isn't enough. You need to know how to fix it. So I've been privileged at the airport. I'm able to hang out with some very tenured pilots that have 100,000 hours of airtime that also know how to fix things. And so I kind of adopted, a new regime of dads that I follow around. And it's always good to know that you can do something more than just use a hammer and a screwdriver.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm an electronics tinkerer. Like, I'm pretty good at like putting together computers and stuff. But if you give me like a soldering iron, or you tell me to fix a mechanical thing, I wouldn't even, like, I did not grow up fixing cars or any, like, a lawnmower, none of those things. So you can come and if I ever get a plane, which I don't have a plane, if I do, you will come and fix it. Cause that's not a thing that I would ever do, or nor would I trust myself with, which kind of leads me. Yeah, go ahead.
It started out with go-karts. So
sure.
Before Lewis Hamilton was driving, I was doing go-karts. And if the go-kart needed to be fixed, I needed to know how to fix it. And then it was bicycles, and I raced bicycles. And then it was Formula One cars. So all those things became increasingly more complex, but surprisingly, a Cessna 152 and 172 piston engine aren't really that complex.
Really?
You could go look up popular mechanics, circa 1960 something, 1970, and that thing has really changed. Very simple.
You say that it's very simple. I think to myself, that may be true, but the stakes are quite high that it gets done right. Quite high. All right. So and actually the next question, and I'm going to take what we're talking about now off the table because it's just too easy. What's something that's inside of your comfort zone, Donna, that might be outside of somebody else's? And that I'm going to take repairing mechanical things that fly right off the table, because that we've already addressed, like, that is something that's not my comfort zone. How about you?
I think something that's out of my comfort zone is probably, just heights, believe it or not, and which is one of the reasons why I learned to fly. I will never jump out of it. Peter Shankman, author and social evangelist, is, I consider him a mentor of mine, and he jumps out of planes, and I think is, like, go for it, because I will never do that. I like being in control.
Yeah.
I like Peter. There's 12 things to do before you jump. And if you jump, there's just one thing to do. That's too easy for me.
You're like, Peter, I'll fly you, but I'm not jumping. I'll be your pilot. I'll be the person who gets you up. I will not be the person who jumps out.
Yeah. But I think the other thing is just a little more on a personal note and kind of reflective of this last, 18 months is I'm not comfortable with attitude. I really think that we need to live in a scenario of more gratitude and less attitude. And I think we've seen a lot of that in the news and not being respectful of people's opinions, and your opinion matters and my opinion matters. And at the end of the day, we all need to come, be, cohesive as humanity, not even just a nation, just as humanity. So I think, having less attitude and more gratitude, is just something that I think we can all just do better with.
Yeah. Well, I agree 110%. You also work in a space with a lot of opinions. People have a lot of opinions about companies and celebrity CEOs and the kind of the people you work with. So it's interesting. I don't know if you read about this. Are you a tennis fan at all?
My daughter's an avid tennis player. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you read about Sloane Stephens. You know who Sloane Stephens is?
Yes.
Did you read the story about what happened to her at the US Open on Monday? So I was reading, there's another American who lost yesterday, and she literally said, she goes, I'm sitting here waiting to be destroyed on Instagram, like destroyed, where people, like, I don't know if you read the stuff that they were saying to Sloane, but it's disgusting. I don't know who these people are that would think that way.
Yeah, I think we can learn from that. And social media in general has become a flogging, ground for a lot of, not just celebrities. I mean, celebrities are looked up as heroes, and you look at, kids that are looking for content and looking for, to respectfully look at somebody like Sloane, and they see that, and then they either are going to make choices that's acceptable or non-acceptable behavior. Yeah. And if they model that unacceptable behavior, then that starts going into their own social best practices and their own community. And we've already seen, the issues with bullying and privacy and everything else and social. So why help amplify it?
Yeah. Yeah. The next question I'm going to ask you about, I think you've maybe have started to answer this already. It's my gut, but maybe not. So you have 5 minutes. I give you 5 minutes. I'm the world's best PR agent. And I give you 5 minutes and you get to get your message out to everybody. And you get to speak to all of us. What would you talk about, Donna? And what would be your call to action for us at the end of your 5-minute speech?
You know what? I'd really want to address the need for more STEM education and to challenge the next generation, the current generation and the futurists to try the impossible. Take a math class, take a science class. Don't be scared of science or math or even a dance class. So if we really want to make it at STEAM, and put in the arts in there. But I think there's been so much that's been stripped out of education. And this last year and a half with, a lot of kids being homeschooled and being challenged to kind of do more with less. I think that an extra boost of being challenged within science and math and engineering. And there's so many jobs that there's a shortage of right now. And so if you look at the labor shortage, we need more women in STEM. The numbers are really low. I don't even give a number because I look at the numbers and they change every week, but it's less than 20%, I believe, last time I looked. We need boys in STEM and more complex technical jobs as well. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a scientist, but I have learned in my 20 plus years and unraveling and decoding, I get giant manuals of complex things given to me all the time. But I've learned to stand back and look and ask the obvious questions and the curiosity factor of so what, who cares and how does it work and why does it work and why does it matter to Jason and why does it matter to Donna? And I think that people, like myself can certainly jog along those, STEM, brilliant people. But I do think that we need to encourage kids to be more challenged, like put down the Game Boy, the Game Boy. I'm dating myself now. Put down the game console, put down the smartphone, the smart device, and let's get smarter ourselves. Because if we can challenge ourselves and we read, books, and my daughter is 19 and she reads a novel a day. It seems like she reads a book a day. There's a lot, but she's been challenging herself. She doesn't have the extra time of walking to school or in labs and different classes. So every time I see or my neighbor kids too that are taking on an additional activity that's going to brighten their mind or challenge them, I think those are the types of things as parents and neighbors and as a community, we need to encourage kids and the next generation to constantly be curious. If you look at Richard Branson, if you look at Elon Musk, and you look at how Steve Jobs, and just bright, like-minded people that are constantly in that mode of discovery. And I think we need to really nurture that and procure that. And we look at, I want to go to space. I don't want to go to space because I want to experience it. I want to go to space because I want to have that personal experience for myself so I can actually use it as another kind of a notch in my belt of understanding. I don't want to go to space for any other ego or purposeful reason. But I think having that same wonderment when I was a kid and saw, going to the moon as being such an amazing milestone in history and exploratory and conversation for us. We had year-long conversations on going to the moon. I wanted to see that same enthusiasm brought back into the classroom. Yeah.
So the call to action is pretty simple. For children specifically and parents of children, take the next step in exploring these topics. Because what I'm hearing you say, Donna, is that a lot of people, they don't go there because it feels scary.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But if you look at robotics, robots aren't taking our jobs away. They're actually, they're amending, they're adhering. Artificial intelligence is in every aspect of in our home. And we look at smart devices like, our whether it's Alexa or if it's your Nest, home device, any of these devices that we might have in our home, you look at the intelligence in cars. kids are growing up with this now. So I think that the fact that they're growing up with the stuff that used to be perceived as being Jetsons will hopefully, kind of pique their curiosity and kind of drive that inertia. But I still think we need to encourage it.
Yeah. Very cool, Donna. We're going to take a really brief commercial break, and we'll be right back after this.
The Talking to Cool People podcast is brought to you by Jason Frizzell Coaching. Jason works with amazing people who are looking to find and develop their passion and purpose and create their journey to wherever it is they want to go. Check us out at jasonfrizzell.com, Facebook, or on Instagram. Jason loves hearing from anyone who thinks it would be cool to connect, to be coached, or to be a guest on our show. Email him at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com or DM him on Facebook and Instagram. And now, back to some more amazing conversation on Talking to Cool People.
All right, Donna, we are back. And
awesome.
You've alluded to a little bit about your career. We learned some things about you. We've learned that you have a daughter who's an avid reader, a novel a day, or so you say. She'll be like, "Nah, it's not true, Mom." What do you want?
My bookshelf, it's true.
Yeah, that's impressive. What do you want? What do you want us to know about you?
So I think one of the things that being here in the Silicon Valley is fairly unique is I grew up in the Valley when it was called the Land of Heart's Delight. San Jose specifically was called that because it was all ranches. And eventually the ranch, and we're still in the middle of a farm belt. I mean, I think the Valley is one of the greatest things about being here is that there's an intersection of agriculture. We're in an agriculture farm belt that goes all the way from the Central Valley all the way down to Salinas Valley, down to Southern California. And then we have this tech belt, which is the San Francisco Bay Area. Basically, the Silicon Valley has become really elasticized. And I left. I left after college, and I lived in New York. I lived in London. I lived in Chicago. And I came back to Silicon Valley because there was so much opportunity in terms of access to innovation and technology, and which ultimately became, kind of like the sponge world that I decided to reside in. But there's a convergence that's been happening in the last 10 years, and it keeps happening, which is the convergence of all these different markets coming together. Mm-hmm. So once upon a time, when I started my business 20 years ago, I had security clients, and then I had clients in deep learning, which is now called deep learning, but at the time it was just called, I don't know, it was aggregated learning. We had, transportation, but we didn't really have, we didn't have EV. And so all the convergence of things have happened. So I'll give you an example. I work with a company called Monarch Tractor. Monarch Tractor is a smart autonomous electric tractor. The tractor could not exist and do its functionality if the intersection of agriculture understanding and understanding of traditional farming, as well as the understanding of deep learning, artificial intelligence, autonomous transportation, and all those. So it certainly is a product to change and a product, a meaningful product that converges all this technology.
Yeah.
Another example is Damon Motors, which is a motorcycle company based up in Vancouver, California, Vancouver, Canada, an extension of California, beautiful up there.
Yes.
And Damon, his approach to electric motorcycles is really different than anything you see in the market. It also incorporates deep learning and artificial intelligence in general. So you think of it as Tesla, being kind of the benchmark. Both the motorcycle and the tractor now have that same type of intelligence, the same type of deep learning, and are very, smart platforms, right? And so they're not just devices that you would go buy. You could be a backyard farmer, which I am. And you can ride, a moped, or you can ride a scooter, or you can ride a motorcycle. But in this era of change, where we all need to be more conscious and we need to be smarter about the decisions that we make, the next vehicle, it could be the two-wheel vehicle, and and both the tractor and the motorcycle can charge your home, and then the reverse charging. So I'm just amazed and this is why I continue to do what I do. I'm absolutely blown away and amazed of the innovation and the technology and the innovators and the future they imagine, so that people like you and I and the kids that we were describing earlier will actually have a better quality of life.
Yeah.
So I think innovation and technology can enhance the way we live. And I think that's, one of the things I think is just amazing, and why I still do what I do after all these years, is that every day there's something, the impossible is possible.
Yeah.
And that just fascinates me. I'm an innovation junkie.
Yeah, I can see that. I want to ask, it's not a question. The Monarch, you said Monarch tractor, like a Monarch butterfly. I'm picturing like a big Roomba that works on a crop field. Is that kind of what it is?
No, it's actually quite compact. In fact, I'll speak to the Monarch butterfly. So it's such an interesting project. The founders of the company are so diverse. So we have the CEO who comes from the transportation industry for 20 plus years. So we have the president who comes from Tesla and built the gigafactories, and then we have the chief farming officer, which is a new CFO type title.
I've never heard of that. It's amazing.
Yeah,
chief farming officer.
It's Carlo Mondavi, who's the grandson of Robert Mondavi, who basically created the Napa wine industry.
Sure. Yeah.
And then we have an artificial intelligence expert. So it's taken that whole team, without going into details and everything, but to take the dream team here with all their experience to create this tractor, which is smaller. I would say it's as powerful and robust and can do everything that a traditional fossil fuel tractor, but it's more compact in its ability and in its strength.
Sure.
So it can charge your Tesla, and it can charge your home. And in California, where we have a lot of climate issues, we have a drought right now. We have fires. We are challenged with labor shortage and so many other things. But something you probably didn't know, and listeners didn't know either, is that the butterfly population has gone from millions to just thousands, and they're near extinction. And when I was a kid growing up in California, butterflies would be everywhere. Any place there was milkweed, and milkweed has been depleted. And so it becomes sustainability, to me, becomes the responsibility of all of us. It's not just the farmer, and it's not just the innovators in creating these products. But if you look at what's happened in this last 10 years, just in terms of California and fires, and as I'm very passionate about agriculture, and but I think with that comes responsibility. And I spoke to someone last week who was a farmer, and they're struggling just to put food on the table for a family. Farmers are like a hallmark of what's industry, and what such an important industry for the U.S.
Yeah.
So when you hear a farmer can't put food on the table, that's like saying we can't have the library open,
Yeah.
and it affects all of us. And right now, the almond farmers in California have 80% of the almonds come from California, and the drought is killing off those crops. So I think being, for a native Californian and seeing the intersection of all these things coming together as it relates back into innovation and tech, I just, I feel like, I was purposely brought back to California for a reason. Because sometimes you say you can't go back home. I think I know why I'm here.
Yeah. I want to ask you at this point about two things. One, I'm hoping you'd share some wisdom with anybody who's with us today who is interested in getting into PR. What advice would you have for someone saying, "Hey, Donna, I really want to get into PR. I'm out of school. I've got a PR degree." What's the advice you give? And then the second thing is, it's actually totally different, but I'd love to talk for a little bit about your podcast, because you're also a podcaster. So I want to hear a little bit about what you're doing in that space as well. So first question is, what advice, if any, do you have for people that want to get into PR?
Well, I'm so excited. I just hired an intern on Friday, and so it's perfect time. Hard to find interns. I
really?
Just fresh out of school. Yeah. Not internships are typically, are great feeding grounds for when you study communication. So I like to hire people that either have a journalism, communications, some form of writing or English background, so written and spoken word is really key. And internships are really important to really understanding the best practices, the industry, and being able to just apply, what you've read in textbooks to the real world. So I did internships with Reuters and with the Washington Post and with community papers. In fact, I started writing with community papers when I was 12 years old. So by the time I got out of college, I had a lot of experience. But the intern I just hired was fabulous. Like, she didn't even know what a gold mine she had on her resume. She had currently been working, at a farm. She had worked with a nonprofit STEM education group. Of course, I get her resume referred to me from my hairdresser, and I'm like, look at this. And I said, where has this person been? Because I see understanding and interest in innovation and tech. I also see the connection with agriculture and like a traditional vertical market. And for very selfish reasons, I said, oh, I know exactly where I can need her help on. Yeah. So, communications and being fearless, I think is key, particularly in tech and innovation. Oftentimes people think they have to have an engineering degree or they have to have a computer science degree. You don't. You work with the best within those lanes, and your communication skills are really the key is to understand what it is that you need to know. Let the experts stay in their lane, distill the content that is most valuable, and really turn the conversation away from how it works to why it works and making it relevant, and then continuously looking at it too. And so I read constantly. I'm reading, and I listen to lots of podcasts, including yours. I listen to podcasts on neuroscience. I listen to Lex Friedman. I listen to Tim Ferriss and Jordan Harbinger and Dave Asprey, NPR, Guy Raz, Washington Post, Wired. I read, listen and read like a sponge. Yeah. But I also have to look at world economics and politics, and what's happening in the world could affect us. Might not affect us today, but could affect us, in the future. So what's happening in Afghanistan is relevant, even though it's not right in my backyard. And what's happening, in tennis, as we were discussing, any of the popular social, cultural things, really allowed me to do my job better, and for me to stay current and to, just really also know how to filter out the noise.
Yeah, something you said that really, it all stuck with me. Something you said about PR really stuck with me. Most of us don't need to know how it works. So I come from a technology background too, more on the sales side. Most people don't buy, they don't care how it works. People don't care. They want to know why it works and how it's going to solve the problem that they have in their life, or make them have them, give them more fun, or give them more peace or more time, or whatever it is. I've never thought about PR that way, but that's actually what you do in PR, right? Like, no, and this is I saw
we deconstruct. It's like Legos.
Right.
You need the people that create, and then you need the people that deconstruct and kind of explain it. Right. And so, and if press releases basically are kind of explainers, right? It's the basic, rudimentary. And then also, I think the other key, the really critical thing is listen. People respond, they don't listen. So if we just listen and kind of tune in a little bit more, you're probably going to understand, and learn quicker. I mean, my first products that I need to learn on was Ethernet and network data center infrastructure. I had no clue about any of that stuff. And then chips. Yeah. And I don't mean potato chips either. I mean like Intel
potato chips too. Chips. Yeah. Very cool, Donna. That's an interesting journey.
So the podcast is basically Before It Happened, which is really, if you look at Guy Raz and How I Built This, that show is really about the unicorns. Yep. I have access to more of the acorns, and I look at the acorns of these smaller emerging companies and players, and that are really unique. So I cover the gamut from, I have both, recently, I have transportation, artificial intelligence. I have we get into augmented reality and gaming. I had Al Alcorn, the inventor of Pong, and which he basically created the entire industry. In a few weeks, I have Tyler Florence, who is a celebrity, well-known celebrity chef. But we talk about we talk about the future of food and why we should all care. I have inventors and of consumer goods. I have the inventors in sports bra coming on. I mean, I get really into some, if it's patented and it's on the market and it's broken the industry open. I want to know that story.
Very cool. So it's out now. It's on all the major podcasting platforms. And the thing that I like is it's before, and then it's capital I, capital T, like IT is the way I read it. Is that?
No, it's not IT. It's It Happened. The moment in which moment in which the individual realized it's like, it's all, it's like dealer, it's like, I'm going to put it all on the table. At that very moment, I decided I'm going to make this change. I'm going to bring this product to market. I'm going to max out my credit card. I'm going to sell my car. I'm going to, trade in the fish for the dog. It's pretty much the entrepreneurial spirit and that it takes for not every innovator is an entrepreneur, but most of the folks in my show are people who are risk takers and challenge themselves and creating something and bringing it to market. This week, I have Faris Rosani with Rosani Motors, who his father was a fighter pilot and trained in the U.S., but was with the Iranian Air Force. He's created Rosani Motors, and he wasn't even a car designer. I have STEM education advocate, the NASA lady, that goes into the classrooms every day and teaches kids about space. I mean, these are people that are really changing the future by giving it their all, and their back end story is typically glazed over. By the time they get to become a unicorn, their back end story is kind of forgotten.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool,
the first
Donna.
digital camera, the Steve Sasson, the inventor of the digital camera, which is on all of our phones and devices.
Sure.
While he was at Kodak, he created that, and he was an engineer who just wanted to do an engineering job, and he ends up finding himself battling and in a courtroom for the IP rights for the first digital camera. So some really fascinating stories, and I was going to sit down and write a book. And I be honest with you, with flying and everything else I'm doing, I just couldn't sit still long enough to write a book. Yeah. So I said, hey, let's do a podcast.
I know, talk to people. And then
you realize, it's a lot more work than you thought it was.
Everything you just shared very much resonates with me. I hate writing, which is why I'm not in PR. I actually have an advertising degree. I have a mass comm degree, but I hate writing. So I'm like, but I love talking to people. So I have a podcast. And yes, what's
the best headline you ever wrote or copy you wrote for advertising?
I mean, I was never in advertising because I did it in college, and then I got out and I said, okay, I'd like to make more money. So I went right into sales, because when I got out of college, advertising paid not good. It was not, I think it's still pretty entry level salary when you first start, but you can move up quickly. But I'm with you. Podcasting is much more my style. And yeah, it's a decent amount of work to get an episode out, but I love most of it. If I had to write a book, I would probably quit after like the foreword and be like, all right, never mind. I'm not doing this.
I'll sell the book, but I put that in 2022.
Yeah, there you go.
I was at a stationery store recently looking for my 2023 planner, and I was really confused why they only had 2022 on the display. And I asked the sales clerk, I said, 2022 is on sale. I said, the year's almost over. Do you have 2023? And she goes, it's only 2021. And I thought, oh crap. The year has slipped away, but a year forward hadn't slipped away yet.
You are quite the futurist, Donna. You literally skipped the year. That's amazing.
By 2023.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. Since you're a podcast host, I'm giving you the mic here. You have a mic. to ask me a question. You can ask me one question. I'm going to put myself on a timer because I am liable to talk way too long otherwise. So what's something that you'd like to ask me that I can answer for you?
I want to know what product are you missing in your daily life that maybe it's not on the market yet, but what if you can visualize a future, product that would just make your life more productive? What would that product be?
Oh my God. By the way, we have not prepped this. I'm the perfect person to ask this of because I'm a technology person. I'm an early adopter. Man, for me, I'm going to relate this to my business. And I know there's some products out there, but I don't know if they're good or not. I would love to have a product that would write for me, write content marketing, write press releases, write show notes for podcasts, like something that you could like feed it some basic stuff.
There's a robot that does that.
There are some companies on Instagram. I do because on Instagram, I'm labeled as a coach and a podcaster. I do get marketed these tools. There's one I think it's called AI Jarvis, and which is funny because I think Jarvis is also Iron Man's artificial intelligence in the Marvel movies. I believe is called Jarvis, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it is.
And they advertise that it will write copy for you. But I've seen the copy and I'm like, this doesn't sound very good. I would like something that I could say, hey, and I would pay I would pay a few $100s a month for this. Say, hey, like I've got a podcast episode, listen to the transcript. I will send you the transcript into this automated tool, this AI tool, pop me out some great show notes. Hey, I've got something I want to talk about in a blog, but here's some basic cliff notes. Make this into something that sounds good. I would pay a few $100s for that.
You could call it Don't Get Frazzled.
Don't Get Frazzled. Which is, that's great. That was my nickname and growing up was Frazzle. So and people would be like, yeah, that was my nickname. So
well,
there
I was
you
just
go.
thinking it was really, really pithy and that people would, they would appreciate what it would allow them to do.
I'm not sure people would understand what that was. That they'd be like, what is this thing? But yeah.
And what is the worst gadget that you ever purchased that you just thought, oh, this is like the most useless thing. Why did I spend the money on it?
This is an interesting question.
I mean, it could be a selfie stick. It could be.
Oh God, no! I'm not a selfie stick person. Hope I don't offend anybody. I'm not
X-ray
a selfie stick
glasses.
I'm trying to think. I've definitely, honestly, the worst thing I've purchased. It's a technology product, but it's not like a consumer product. So I hope you'll accept my answer. And if you don't, it's my show anyway. So online. So I purchased a few online courses for things. And I took the first 10 minutes of it. I was like, this is not good. But they had a no money back type thing, which I can understand why. Like, I really like the topic and it felt useful. And then I took the first 10 minutes. I'm like, this is not good. And so that's the thing that comes to mind immediately.
They had buyer's remorse.
Yeah. I mean, most of the stuff that I buy.
Well, it kind of sucks if you pay for a workshop and you have to do all the work and you don't learn anything.
Well, especially when it's on, and I'm terrible at self-paced learning. I'm somebody who wants to either sit in a classroom or do a one-on-one. Like, I will pay you to be with me to teach me stuff. For you to be like, hey, Jason, I'm my new PR course. You can watch it for like 4 months. I will probably not do that.
You know what's really cool is UC Berkeley has an extension, and you can be any place in the U.S. To take them, but they're doing whole workshops on future of innovation and tech.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. And so it's an extension course. And I signed up because I thought, hey, I'll learn something out of this. The lineup of people are deep-minded researchers and PhD doctors, or a few Silicon Valley type people. But for the most part, it's research people. And then at MIT, you can take any class online. It's like, and I think it's 99.9% all MIT classes that you can go online and take courses. And some of them, I think you can even audit. I could be wrong on the auditing thing, but during the pandemic, when students were going back to school and people were, going back to junior colleges and not enrolling in four-year colleges, they went online. And so I think the future of education and future of learning is going to change as well. And I think the accessibility of being able to have, these major universities, and I went to Cal, so I'm really excited what they're doing. is I literally used to walk through the School of Engineering hoping that the DNA would fall off of me. And I would tell my friends, this is the future. And these are the people, and it was mostly men, that were going to be making the things. And so when I spoke to Al Khan about, when he was studying computer science and years ahead of me at Cal, but there was that same mystique was still there. You walk into, these institutions where there's deep learning. So it doesn't make any difference, what major research university, whether you're walking through. I mean, I feel the same way when I go to Smithsonian Institute, right?
Yeah.
Or the Library of Congress, it's like, let the DNA fall. So, it didn't create E equals MC squared, but I certainly want to figure, I like to know, about the person who did create it. And I think that's really what innovation and technology is. And sometimes I will go into Best Buy or some big box store and I'm like, do we need this? Do we really need this?
Yeah.
Like, why do I need this?
The thing with big box is they have huge teams of buyers who have done the research to think that it makes sense to give this thing, 1 foot of retail space that's worth millions of dollars. Like somebody's done the research on this thing.
Yeah. I bought 4 different microphones by 4 different affiliate marketing podcast tutorials before I got it right. And the one that actually steered me to get the microphone right was my podcast studio pod that I work with in San Francisco. They steered me to the right equipment. Yeah. I was a little bit of a affiliate marketing, victim. And I had products that weren't really going to work for me. That could work for other people. Yeah. But I could have a closeout in my closet and of things that I should probably, put on eBay or something, of things that just didn't work for me.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Okay, Donna, we're going to start to wrap up. I do have a couple more questions for you. First question is, I'd love to hear about the thing that you're most proud of. And I know that's not a question. So the question is, what's the thing that you are most proud of?
I'm most proud of not giving up. I started my business 20 years ago after I had adopted my kids from Russia. And so most people probably wouldn't want to take on 2 racehorses, but I'm like, I'm going to leave the corporate world and start my business, and I'm going to become a parent. And it was a tsunami with 2 kids. And so together, I created 2 infant startups, right? And so how entrepreneurial is that? And I successfully, in retrospect, look back and say, wow, that 20 years went by really fast. And I weathered the storm. I weathered, a down economy in 2008, 2011 wasn't so great. Look what we just all went through, or we're still going through in this last couple of years. And I've been able to not only help my business thrive, but also put my kids in positions to give them the tools and the exposure and experience to help them thrive. And so I'm most proud of is starting a business is no easy feat. I think that's why I understand the entrepreneurial spirit and all the entrepreneurial people that I work with and I also interview on my podcast. Is I get it. I've been there, done that, and you have to be agile. That's the number one thing. Forget people talk about balance. It's not balance. You have to be agile. Yeah. You got to be as, nimble and quick, and weather the storm, the climate change, the pandemic, economic change, and all those things. And I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Beautiful. Donna, how do you see the world?
I see the world full of possibilities. I think that we are still, at that learning stage of just, humanity. I think in terms of innovation, I think in terms of acceptance, I think oftentimes people expect and don't accept. And I think if we come from a place of acceptance and not expectance, that a lot more things can work better in business. They can work better and socially and personally. And so I'm not a trained a doctor in any regards, but I think the mind can be a really beautiful thing. And I think it can be a really really, horrible thing. And so we wake up, I wake up every morning and I wake up to a lemon tree. And how symbolic is that? Is I wake up to a lemon tree and I said, we have fruit. Some days we don't have fruit, but right now we're in a fruit season. And so what are you going to do each day? If you believe, you can achieve. And I think that, that's why I think that we have a lot of possibility.
Beautiful. All right, Donna. So how can we connect with you and find you? If you could recap the podcast name again, just all the ways that people can find you and learn more about you.
Yeah. Podcast is Before It Happened. It is on, look for the rocket that's taking off. It was designed by a fabulous designer, Doug Penman. Give him a little plug. Our studio podcast on Amazon, Google, Spotify, Apple, all those places, BeforeItHappened.com. I'm also on Donna Loughlin on LinkedIn and Instagram. And I love to have more guests and solicitations of people that think that they're an aspiring guest to be on Before It Happened. So we are booked all the way through the end of this year, going into the new year. And I'm just so excited to, share these stories because these are game-changing people that are going to, I would say, the word mind freak. They really do. I think I know their story, but then I dig in and then I find out, wow, I really didn't know that story. Yeah. And I love that kind of fun factor curiosity that comes out.
Excellent, Donna. Everything you just shared will go in the show notes. People can click, find the podcast, find the website, connect with you on Instagram, LinkedIn, all the good places. Well, I want to thank you for being on today. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. And like I mentioned,
already?
We're almost done. You're not off the hook quite yet.
Oh my!
I got a tradition, and I'm going to have you follow in the tradition because every guest has followed in the tradition, and I think you know what it is because you know what I'm going to ask you.
I don't know, actually.
All right, perfect. Even better. So we're going to do some improv here. Every guest leaves us with some words of wisdom, and the words of wisdom should fit on a Post-it note, an Instagram post, something small. And I want to caveat this. The wisdom can be your words of wisdom, or they can be somebody else's words of wisdom, just something that inspires you and that you think will inspire all of us. So what do you got for us? Okay.
Well, I'll start with my father's wisdom. He always told me, he called me Rocky, and he'd say, Rocky, if you don't ask, you don't know. So I use that daily. I think my own words of wisdom is make every day an ordinary day. Make an ordinary day extraordinary. So by just thinking, differently about each day, you can just take, yesterday was Labor Day, a day off. I worked a little bit, but what could I do differently today? What can I do to kind of shake it up and make my ordinary routine, my ordinary day more extraordinary? So I went for a flight, and then I went for a hike, and and I discovered something new.
Yeah. I went for a flight, repaired an airplane, went for a hike, did a podcast, and now I'm good. That's awesome, Don. Well, thank you very much for being on today. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and I wish you the very best in everything you're up to with the podcast, the PR business, all the entrepreneurs you're helping in their business. And I can't wait to see the next set of products that come out that I can say, hey, I know the person who helped out with that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to invite you to one in New York City coming up. So very excited for
That's
that.
Awesome.
And I have a whole pocket full of things to share with you.
Beautiful.
So thank you for letting me join you on the show and geek out.
Yeah. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with Jason Frizzell. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and give us a shout out, or take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. If something from today's episode piqued your interest and you'd like to connect, email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners because you're cool people too.